Ciao, travelers, and welcome back to season 3. I know it's been a while, actually, since February. So I'm excited to be back, and I had a lot done. I had an album, a couple singles, so that was like my main focus. But I wanted to think what to do for this season, and I decided to do America 250. We just celebrated 4th of July. So I thought for season 3, that's what we're doing. So that's what we're doing. So before we get in, I kind of mix it up. We usually have my little cards, quiz cards, but I found this in the classroom. It's for my millennials, you probably know what this is. It is Brain Quest. And this is deck 2. I don't know what happened to deck 1, but that's what's going on. So we're going to try that before we get into our topic. All right. 4 states share a border with Mexico. Can you name at least 2? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answers are California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. If you named all 4, fabulous. Look at these. These look so cool. All right. All right, this should kind of be obvious. Maybe you might get mixed up with another state. Which state grows more oranges and grapefruits than any other state in the United States? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that is Florida. I'm not sure if the grapefruit threw some of you off. All right, I'm trying to see not just see what else we got here. Okay. Political science. Which branch of the federal government is headed by the president? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that is the executive branch. There's 3 branches of the government. All right, so let's get in. So I wanted to start off with American history that predates 250 years, way before Europeans took over and colonized the land. So this is a big feat because there were so many civilizations in so many areas. So we're touching upon some of the more major Native American tribes that had been in the United States long before Europeans arrived. And I think it's really important that we talk about that because a lot of times it's ignored. And it's really important to know that people are still here and we're here way before Europeans arrived. So it's really important that I decided I would like to mention that part. So millions of Native Americans live throughout the land of the United States. These indigenous, so sometimes people say indigenous, people develop complex societies, governments, and trade networks, religious and agricultural systems that reflected the diverse environments in which they lived. You have to remember the United States, as we know it today, if I'm not mistaken, North America has every single climate zone on Earth. North America for sure, but the United States has a lot of them, if not all, between the territories overseas too. So we look at the United States right now as a whole collective, then it was more fragmented. Rather than forming one unified culture, Native Americans belong to hundreds of distinct tribes and nations, each with their own language, traditions, and history. So we're going to start off in the Northeast. That's where I live. One of the most influential cultural regions was the Eastern Woodlands, home to many tribes, including the Iroquois, Algonquin-speaking people like the Cherokee. So that's the East Coast, Cherokee, South, East. Dense forest, rivers, and fertile soil supported farming, hunting, and fishing. And this is where the majority of Europeans landed, was in this region of the East Coast. The Iroquois Confederacy consisted of Mohawk, Cayuga, Seneca, and other local tribes. This formed one of the earliest examples of representative government in North America. And as you see in later wars, they do come together to fight European powers. Each nation maintained its own leadership while cooperating on issues affecting the entire Confederacy. Decisions were often made through discussion and consensus, promoting peace among member nations after generations of conflict. The Cherokee lived farther south in present-day Georgia, Tennessee, and the Carolinas. They established permanent villages with homes made from wood and clay. Cherokee society was organized into clans, and women played important roles in property ownership and agriculture. Like many eastern woodland tribes, the Cherokee cultivated the three sisters, corn, beans, and squash, which grew well together and provided balanced nutrition. Hunting deer, turkey, and others supplemented their diets, other game. All right, so now we're moving more towards the Northeast and the Great Lakes. The Algonquin-speaking people occupied much of the Atlantic coast and Great Lakes region. Tribes such as the Lenape is what I say, relied on fishing, hunting, gathering, and farming depending on local conditions. And speaking of local, different dialects of New Jersey say different things differently. FYI, for a small state, we have a lot of dialects and different regional words. They maintain extensive trade routes that connected distant communities and exchanged goods such as copper, shells, fur, and food. These networks helped spread ideas and technologies across large regions. Now, when the Europeans came, they used most of these roads. They used most of these skills in order to survive. So a lot of the roads that we have today, the trails or pikes, they were all native trails that were used for thousands of years. Now we're heading to the Southeast. The Mississippian culture had already built remarkable cities before European arrival. Now, this is where history also plays, that a lot of Native American societies were facing a decline right when or before Europeans came. But even so, there are still developed societies. So the Creek, Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Natchez built different cities. The city of Chacaya, located near present-day St. Louis, was one of the largest cities north of Mexico. So the massive civilizations in the Americas were the Aztecs and the Mayans and the Incas. That's the big three that we usually learn about. But for this region of the United States, this was the largest city, because you had cities, tens of thousands in Mexico, modern-day Mexico, Central America, and South America. So at the height, they had over 15,000 residents, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is back then. The city had ceremonial plazas, organized neighborhoods, and had advanced engineering and social organization. The Great Plains were home to tribes including the Blackfeet, Pawnee, and Wichita before horses transformed life on the plains. So the horses were introduced from the Europeans, which were introduced from the Central Asians on the plains over there. So many plain tribes travel on foot and use dogs to pull belongings on wooden frames. Some groups lived in permanent earth lodges near rivers where they farmed corn and beans. Buffalo provided food, clothing, shelter, tools, and religious significance, making the animal central to plains culture. And still that is true till today. Now we're in the Southwest. Native societies adapted to dry desert environments with impressive engineering and farming techniques. The Pueblo people, descendants of the ancestral Puebloans, built multi-story communities from stone and adobe. So on the side of in the canyons, they built these houses. Villages such as Mesa Verde reflected advanced architecture and careful planning. Pueblo farmers developed irrigation systems to grow corn, beans, squash, and cotton despite limited rainfall. So they got the irrigation, and the water came from the Rocky Mountains, and they came down through what's today the Colorado River. Okay, the Hopi and Zuni are among the Pueblo peoples whose communities continue today. Their religious ceremonies, including dances and rituals honoring natural forces, emphasize harmony with the environment. And that's a really big generalization, was that they're much more linked with the environment than Europeans were. Like a lot of tribes didn't understand the idea of land ownership. It's kind of like if someone said, well, I'm taxing you on the air you're breathing. I always kind of think of it like that, where people are like, what, you're taxing me on that? Because some people can't understand that there was no land tax, but it's kind of that paradigm, that shift that they had to endure, that the idea of leaving their land. So a lot of times they signed documents not understanding that they were signing over land. All right, let's go to finish up the Navajo, migrating to the Southwest from the North before European settlement. And again, they really pioneered farming, hunting, and trade in a desert landscape. This is before air conditioning. Along the Pacific Northwest, tribes such as the Chinook benefited from natural resources that were abundant in the region. River teem of salmon, while coastal water supplied whales, seals, and shellfish. Because food was plentiful, many villages established permanent villages with large cedar plank homes. People built canoes, masks, and towering totem poles that represent family history, spiritual beliefs, and important events. So I've seen when I went to Vancouver, and some of this is going to spill over into Canada and Mexico, they had totem poles. And the beautiful pine trees and cedars are very gorgeous up there. And what they knew about salmon fishing is, again, something that Europeans took. And then when they built dams, all the knowledge was used about like the Columbia River into the engineering of that. Last but not least, we're going to California. And this is one of the most diverse concentrations linguistically and culturally. So they had hundreds of tribes, such as the Chumash, Pomo, and Yurok, lived in a wide variety in environments ranging from coastal beaches to mountain forests. Acorns from oak trees served as a staple food after careful preparation to remove bitter tannins. I didn't know people ate acorn. I always wonder that, but I guess you need to boil it or do something so it doesn't have that bitter taste. Fishing, hunting, and gathering supported healthy populations, while trade connecting neighboring communities. And last but not least, we're in the Arctic and subarctic regions. We're inhabited by people such as the Inuit. Though most of Alaska is outside the contiguous United States, these indigenous cultures adapted to harsh climate through remarkable survival skills. They hunted seal, fish, whales, and caribou while constructing warm shelters. So religion and spirituality were woven into Native American life. Most tribes believe that humans, animals, plants, and the natural world were interconnected. Ceremonies honored seasonal changes, successful harvests, hunting, and important life skills. And storytelling was the main way of sharing the values and history to the next generation. There was also tribes in the Caribbean and other areas that are part of the United States. This was a focus more on the contiguous United States, but please look out for or research that. All right, so that was just a little history, and there's so much more, so I advise to dive in. Okay. Oh, here we go. Question time. What Native American taught the Pilgrims how to grow corn and make medicine from plants? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that is Squanto. And that's the thing, like with history too, they make it like Europeans were friendly the whole time, but once land got scarce and food got scarce, they were either forced out of their land or killed. So sometimes in history, we make it seem like, oh, they're friends and everything. At one point they were, but again, it's not that friendly coming over and stealing people's land. Okay. So the last one. Which state in the U.S. is so big that it spans 4 time zones? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it is Alaska. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Happy birthday, 250. There'll be more episodes coming. And ciao, travelers. Bye-bye.